Hello, Betham. It's been a while since I was able to send out a Shabbat video. In previous iterations of this video, I have done a communal update, a little piece of Torah, and then a short meditation. I'll just do the short piece of Torah this week and the meditation and leave the updates for emails that will include all of the information. One could argue that the most significant verse in the book of Exodus, in the book of Shemot, which we're going to begin reading this week, is chapter 1, verse 8. Vayakom melech chadash al Mitzrayim, there arose a new king over Egypt, asher lo yada et Yosef, who didn't know Joseph. The verse sets the conditions for the Israelite oppression and thus for our eventual exodus and redemption. So thus begins the transition in Egypt from thriving to slavery, from society generally working to society utterly broken. It begins with what the Midrash considers an almost intentional not knowing, a willful ignorance of reality. Because how could a sitting Pharaoh not have known Joseph and what he did for Egypt? It's painfully obvious. It must be that this king knew, but pretended not to. So he has instant pretense to change his decrees, subjugate a people, and wield authority with no bounds and no self-sacrifice, and certainly no care for others aside from himself and those that are his. I am struck by the uncanny resonance and timing of our being reminded this week of the cost of not knowing, not acknowledging a Joseph, then and now. Joseph, the son of Jacob, then. Joseph Biden, now. Now, not knowing and not acknowledging is different than not praising or loving or supporting or cheering. Not being willing to know when it is willful. It's the beginning of the end of a world that makes sense and where systems work. This past week's horrors stem from many sources. But at the core, the rage on the street leading from the White House to the Capitol, fomented by the President of the United States, stemmed from a portion of our population who refused to know, refused to even acknowledge this generation's Joseph. This, to me, is a Pharaoh-like stance, and our society cannot abide by it. Whether one thrills at the notion of a Biden presidency, and I know there are many of you who do, or whether one is wary of it, and I know there are many of you who are, all honorable Americans must yodea, must know and aver and accept this Joseph. That in and of itself does not bring peace to our polity, but it is needed and it is an overdue start. Now, one could argue that the most significant verse in the book of Genesis, Breshit, which we just finished last week, is chapter 4, verse 9, in which Cain in the Hebrew, humanity's inaugural murderer, is set out as an archetype of the antithesis of everything good people should stand for. When questioned by a god about where his brother Abel is, Cain says famously, Hashomer achi anochi, am I my brother's keeper? The Torah's silent but profound answer to that is yes, of course. And society after society, founded on biblical ethics, have reinforced that moral stance. Never perfectly, but always, at least aspirationally. Yes, we are responsible for others. No, we cannot shirk responsibility for when we do what is wrong. No, we cannot turn away from our duty to ensure that our world is filled with good. Our world and our nation, both our Jewish nation and our American nation, is filled with many who are quite different, and yet who share something essential. And I, for one, am optimistic, even and especially this week, that we are moving tentatively but confidently towards a society that revels in its multi-ethnic, multi-racial, multi-ideological pluribus congealing into a workable and even admirable unum. It will not happen overnight, but it must start today, and we play a part. And I am optimistic that our jettisoning any affection for or fetish for the core verse of the book of Exodus about not knowing will bring us closer to inverting the core verse of the book of Genesis, so that we can look out our windows at all the others, those with whom we agree and those with whom we vehemently disagree, and say with a full heart, yes, I am responsible for you. Yes, I am claimed by you. Yes, I want to build a world with you. Ken Yehi Ratzon, so may that be God's will. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. And if you do not wish to stay for a meditation, you are released. And I look forward to seeing you soon. And I miss you and I love you. And if you do want to stay for meditation, that will happen now. This will be short, but hopefully it'll be restorative. I invite you to close your eyes. And place your feet flat on the floor in front of you, feeling the contact between you and the earth. And place your hands on your legs, either palm down as an embrace of self, or palms up, showing that you are open to the entire world. And allow the almost instant sense that you are in some place and some time different than what you were just a few seconds ago. Allow your consciousness to retrieve serenity from wherever serenity is kept, and bring it down over you like a blanket. It's a reminder that we can do that any day, any moment, any hour, irrespective of the storms around us. We can create a cocoon in which we build and experience poised rest. Invite yourself into a rest that is awake and alert and alive and focused and intentional and present and here and vital, and yet very restful, such that you can even experience the restoration happening in real time. And we journey from the ideological and the political and the biblical and the conceptual to the personal. and our own relationship with things we refuse to know. We are all guilty at times of being a Pharaoh, of not being willing to know what is knowable, not being willing to accept what is painful but is real. What do you most need to know that you have refused to know? Whom do you most need to try to know that you have rejected up until now knowing? Breathe into that as your spiritual task for this Shabbat. A Shabbat that we hope will bring rest and ease to us, our community, our society, and our nation. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And I say to you all, Namaste, and Shalom, and Shabbat Shalom, and I miss you and I love you.